not enough to be young.
Yeah.
Young, competent, capacitated, and will send you to parliament.
Members of parliament should remember that we are all fighting the same battle. We all live in one country and we are all fighting the same battles.
I'm not entirely a fan of democracy because democracy cripples progress. You can be old and be incompetent. You can be young and easily corrupted.
Young people in Namibia, they like voting. We vote for the music of the year, artist of the year. We even supported our Miss Universe. But when it comes to politics, young people are nowhere to be found. So that's why today I'm actually joined here by our 3 young people that are very much involved in politics. And today they are going to tell us, why don't they vote, or why don't other young people vote? Is it because we don't trust our politicians? Is it because our political parties that we have in Namibia are not cool enough? So I'm just going to give them an opportunity to actually introduce yourself. So yeah.
Yes, good day everyone watching. My name is Rivaldo Kanongo Kavanga, a law student at the University of Namibia, a outgoing member of the Children's Parliament of Namibia, and I was one of the 100 brightest young minds of Africa in 2022, former journalist for one of Namibia's largest media companies, that is Namibia Media Holdings. And I think if I continue, I'll take 30 minutes. So we may just go here. That's a brief bio.
Okay.
Good day, everyone, and thank you for having me, Elizabeth. My name is Anna Mulundu. I think I'll call myself a youth advocate.
Okay, youth advocate, okay.
Yes, good day, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I am Armando Evian Peters, a youth activist and self-proclaimed political activist.
Okay, interesting to hear that. So I think you all now know the panelists that we have here. So the very first question that I have for you guys, like in our previous election, we had a high number of elderly that actually went to vote, but young people's number, our number was not that good. What do you think? Why don't young people like voting? Why are we not involved in elections?
So there are a number of factors as to why young people are not involved in going to vote. Firstly, you realize that a lot of young people actually register to vote, but when the day comes of voting, we don't go. That's attributed to a number of factors. Firstly, we are considered keyboard activists. We talk a lot on social media, we make noise and all that, but when the day comes, we don't go. And the number of factors because of that. We have fewer polling stations. You'd find that there's 1 or 2 polling stations and the lines are quite long. And that's a day, also, as you know, that day will be declared a public holiday. So young people are then given the 2 options. Would you rather go stand in that line and wait in the sun, bend from the sun, or just sit with your friends, buy a few drinks, talk nice stories under the shade? And so it's really an issue about comfort. And secondly, I don't think that we've seen enough young people in the political landscape, so we feel represented. So we see that, okay, no, there's 1 or 2 young people, but they don't also really often speak to the majority of the other young people. So we are mostly like, we aren't in that space, and that space isn't for us. So we lay back from that space.
Okay, interesting.
Disclaimer, this will be my first time voting this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it because of the age or the age? Okay.
So I'm really looking forward to voting this year. However, every time I think about those really long lines, I'm like, am I really needed to vote? But I know that I am needed to vote, but the long lines are actually a bit quite discouraging. And also, it comes to a question as, do young people really have faith in our politicians? The current people in power and the politicians that are running for as presidential candidates. Do we trust these people? Do we trust them? Do we trust to put them in office? So those are questions that we young people will be asking ourselves. But personally, my number 1 reason would be the long lines.
Okay, say Armando.
Yes, Sandy, to me, I think we as young people are our own enemies because since the onset, we have not been going out in large numbers to vote. There's been so much that has been happening within the economy. There's been so much happening within the social context, but yet I do not know what do we still need. What is the drive that we as young people still do need to push us to stand in the long queues? And really what Rivaldo said is something that is happening. It may sound so small or petty, should I put it, but it is the reality. You'd rather look at rather sitting down under the tree than standing in those line queues. But let me tell you what the implications are of not standing in those long queues. When the results do come out of elections, we see which populace went out in large numbers to vote. Why do you think government increases the old age pensions for our senior citizens? Because when you go out of your house to go and work, what do you expect at the end of the month? You'd expect to be to get a salary for that. It's just the same way government appreciates those that went out in large numbers. Let me not say government, but let me rather say the state appreciates those who went out in large numbers to go and vote for them. So we are our own enemies. We complain about the high unemployment rate. We complain about the state of the economy, but yet we are not going out to vote. And the only way we can change this is when we go out to vote. Because if we as young people go out in a large number to vote, then when government comes out to do its national planning, it will see that young people have now taken their stance by voting, because that is the way that you can test or that you can move a sitting government, by showing them that you have stood up and that you've taken your voice. But young people need to start taking up their voice. I do not know, is it this election that we will start taking our voice as young people? But what will be the drive? We do not know. That is still the question mark.
Yeah.
And I think just to add on to Armando's point is that there's constantly, when you engage young people and ask why do you go vote, they'll constantly tell you, but there's no change, but there's no change. There's no change because you guys aren't also voting.
Yeah.
So if there's no change and you guys don't vote, it will remain the same. So we also have, it's a mindset issue that we are really facing. On one hand, we are very laid back. We're like, there's no change, but you're also not doing anything to invoke that change at the end of the day.
But then we ourselves as young people as well, are we made aware of the importance of politics? Like, do you think are there enough political engagement with young people, actually letting them know what is the importance of voting? If you don't, what are the implications that are as well follows if we don't?
Honestly, I'd say no. There isn't, and I think that ties in with what civic education is. There isn't that strengthened civic education that goes into spaces to tell young people, listen, this is why you have to vote, this is why you don't have to vote, and these are the implications of you voting or not voting. So young people don't understand the consequences at the end of the day, and we see voting merely as it being that activity for that day, not knowing that voting sets out the tone for the next 5 years, and you are able to determine what happens in the next 5 years. So we mostly just think it's a one-day activity that starts and stops there, and then there's no consequences that bad to it. But that is completely wrong. And also the lack of the number of young people. We've seen recently with the census statistic that young people make up, or people under the age of 35, make up about 70% of the population. So why don't we see 70% of the members of parliament being young people? Why don't we see 70% of cabinet members being young people? So that demographic, once it spills over, I think it also invokes a sense of young people wanting to be involved in politics. Because now we see Armando being in politics alone, but Armando's surrounded by a number of older people. So in as much as Armando is there as a young person, we don't feel represented by just one person. You can't say one person is representing 70% of the population. It doesn't work like that. And it doesn't invoke that sense of, let us go because we are involved in this. So we feel excluded, and there's just this imbalance that voting is just on the 27th of November. Then it's done.
Just another. You want to say something?
Yes, if Anna would not want to add on to that, I would really love to add on to that. And I would firstly like to say, Sunday, we, the country, or should I say, voter education or civic education is the backbone on why young people do not go and vote. Because what you need to understand is that as young people, let me not talk about young people, let me talk about society as a collective. You do not need to trust politicians in order to go and vote. What do you need to trust in order to go and vote? You need to trust the state in order to go and vote, because politicians are the machinery that are used to administer the business of the state. Governments are rotational, but the state is permanent. So when I say you need to have trust in the state, I say you need to have trust in the three organs of the state, and you need to trust that these organs will be there to protect and speak to your interest whichever party comes in or whichever government comes in will never be above the state. So the first thing is, do young people know what is the government and what is the state? Because the government can always change, but the state will be permanent. So young people need to be educated on what the state is in order to have a trust in the politicians that are to administer the business of the state.
Exactly, I see. So maybe if I'm a first-time voter and I want to go and vote, how will I know that which party or which candidate should I go and vote for? Like, how do I,
So with that, I think it all boils down to the manifestos of the party. So during the election year, there's a period where parties will then campaign, and this is the time that they'll also have to release their manifestos. Their manifestos are basically the plan that the government has for the next 5 years and why you should vote for them. This party is telling you, listen, vote for me, I'll bring oil in the taps, or I'll do this and this. So that's a manifesto. And this is how young people are then sensitized on what party to vote for. So yeah, once the party launches its manifesto, but however, it's not also the party's duty to impose the manifesto on young people. Because I've seen with previous elections, we've missed the whole manifesto part. We just go stand in line and then you vote for the party. Either the party you feel like voting for, or the party you're told to vote for at home. Because that's what you call this. That's the reality in Namibia. On the day of voting, you guys are being woken up. Hey guys, kids, wake up. Go vote for this party. Go vote for this party. You see, we have good country. And then you go and you go vote.
Exactly.
Without even seeing what the party is saying, what they are going to do. So really it is up to us as young people to study these manifestos, to look at what the party is promising us, to look at what the party says it's going to do and how it's going to attain that vision. And after studying all the manifestos, or at least the ones you feel are relevant to you, you then make an informed decision to say that, listen, I'm going to vote for this party. But one thing I've also realized with the manifestos is that in the digital age of social media, they've lost a bit of touch. Because I could study the manifesto of a political party, but then I go to the election line and I'm on my phone. And I see that, Party B is saying if I vote for them, NASFAF will be 3. So I'll be like, I'm voting for Party B at this point in junction. So it's also really, parties should look at how they can adequately spread their message through on social media and on all these platforms. So initially I said it's not a duty of the party to impose their manifesto on young people. But I think that party should take that obligation and say, listen, we are going to make our manifesto as accessible as possible.
I think from a perspective of a first-time voter, personally, I would actually, when going through the manifestos, and first, like Rivaldo mentioned, it's important that we actually make an informed decision. So it's up to me as a first-time voter to be like, okay, no, I'm going to check for the past manifestos that they give. And I'll see, did they really deliver what they said they'll deliver? And if they didn't deliver all of it, how much of this... should I call it promises? How many of these promises did they actually deliver to? And if I say that, no, those people, they're promising us that for these elections, they'll do A, B, C when they get into power, but they failed to do this back then when they gave their manifestos for the last elections that we had. So I'll personally want to make a very informed decision because I'll not want to be sitting there this 5 years going to the next elections. I'll be there complaining about all the sufferings and all that, just for me to later on be like, regret my decision because I didn't make an informed decision.
And I think just to touch upon what Anna is saying, with young people, I think the manifestos don't speak to us. I think because of their format, it's almost like going through a textbook now and having to read a textbook in your free time. And we know how young people are. We are the era of TikTok, Reels, just quickly 10 seconds scrolling. So for you to take up that and also just read that, it's also very challenging for us as young people. And this is honestly, you can say what, but it's the reality on the ground. How many young people like reading in Namibia? We don't like reading. We'd rather watch a movie, watch TikTok, watch Instagram. So there's also a challenge that political parties are facing. How do they then make their manifestos more accessible to young people?
Yeah, that's very true.
That is very true what Rivaldo and both Anna are saying, because one thing is that I feel like as Namibia, if not this time, even in the next elections, we really need to evolve. I've never seen that in Namibia, we our politicians, or I was probably a kid by then, but I've never seen our politicians have robust debates during elections. I've not seen them debating and putting each other on the hot seat during elections. Party A questioning Party B that is already in power. Party B being questioned on how they will implement their policies that they have articulated themselves, or their interests, their ideas that they've articulated to the electorate. Because in politics, there are four I's that we speak about. There is the idea, there is the manifesto, which you articulate to your constituents. And then we have the interest. Does your manifesto speak to the interest of the electorate who is supposed to put you into power? And then we have the institutions. How best will these parties work with these institutions to then, implement these ideas that they've articulated to the electorate? And then the other is the implementation. Now that is where Anna was coming into it. When this party is seated in power right now, how best do you see whether to trust this party again into power? You need to look at those four I's. What they articulated to you, and the institutions that they were using, and how what is the scene right now that they delivered upon what they had promised to us. But those are things that young people do not really look at. And what as to what Rivaldo was saying, TikTok and Facebook and the Reels and so on, those are things that appeal young people. So the moment that you see Party A posting a Reel, you do not even know whether this party is really a party that will be that is competent or that is credible to go into public office. But because you saw the Reel and you saw that they made a small advertisement of how a young artist that you like is dancing, and then this artist says vote for party who, and that stuff will be cleared, you feel like you want to vote for this party. But again, the backdrop is that young people are not educated on civic education. They do not know that these are tactics that politicians and political parties use during this time of elections. So as young people, we really need to be politically educated in order to know the strategies that politicians use to attract votes.
Yeah, that's actually true. Like now, because now our politician, all they do is now just having us doing the manifestos, but we never had a political debate, like a political party debate in Namibia. So do we have to demand those things, or like how do they come up? Because now just if a person just reading a manifesto there and all that, but we are not really seeing them like debating with another political party and all this. So how do we even bring that in or something?
I think it's incorrect to say that we've never had a political debate. I do remember when Itula ran as an independent candidate, there was a debate within some of the political parties. That I do remember that happened. So yes, to answer your question, I really do think it's just an issue of comfortability of political parties. That's what I've noticed, and that's my personal opinion in Namibia, that certain parties or all the parties are comfortable with the position they are in. The ruling party is comfortable with being the ruling party. It predicts it's going to be the ruling party in the next election. After the next election, the official opposition is comfortable being an official opposition. So there's no creativity in a sense to say that, listen, this is what we are going to do. This is how we're going to try to be the ruling party or all that. But that's really just a personal observation I've made. I think Armando will maybe differ on that issue.
No, Sunday, I would not differ with Rivaldo. I would really like to concur with the sentiments that he's sharing. But yet again, I would like to just say that as young people, we have really understood the theory or the idea that we as human beings are by nature political animals, which means that we have already understood the nature of politics, and we have understood that politics is just a process as it is. That's why, as Rivaldo is saying, opposition has become comfortable with being opposition. Ruling party has become comfortable with being ruling party. But one thing that we as young people can do to change this is, Sunday, there's so much power in the Namibian youth. Namibian youth, in all these organizations that they have, be it organizations like NANSO, for instance. These are organizations that in the past were able to move government. These are organizations that were able to put government to task. Government knew that when young people, through NANSO, for instance, come with a petition to government, there's no way government can play around with NANSO. That is because, why? young people make up the largest demographic of this country. And once you step on the toes of young people, you will, of course, be put to task. Okay, it might be that we have become comfortable with the political scenery as it is, but yet again, we need to put these people to task. And as young people, we need to try and see what are the areas in which we can put these people to task, whether it is opposition and whether it is a ruling party. And one thing is, as young people or as constituents, we only look at the ruling party, but it is not only the ruling party. There's a check and balance within the state. So opposition also needs to be put to task.
Exactly.
You are the dogs you are the watchdogs of government. Government is doing something wrong. We have put you into power to test government and to put government to task. But what are you doing? Rivaldo said they have become comfortable with being opposition, and they are just working to the end of being opposition and not lobbying for support to put to task the ruling party.
Exactly, and I think I agree with Armando's sentiments that usually we just want to hold the ruling party accountable. What have you done? Why have you not done this? Why have you not done this? But what about the manifestos or the promises of the opposition parties? We are quick to forget that the opposition parties also has a manifesto. They also make promises, and they have to also deliver on their promises, because these are parties or people that we elect into parliament. So they also have power to pass laws, to pass bills, and to pass all that. So most of the time our focus is just, the ruling party, the ruling party. But really, what about the opposition? Why don't we also go after the opposition? And I think it speaks to a sense of not us being civically educated. We don't have that education to say, okay, if you vote, for instance, let's say I vote for the opposition party, my role doesn't stop at just voting for the opposition party. But 2 years into the office, I must go to my leaders and ask them, okay, guys, what have you guys done? You can't just say SWAPO isn't built and hospital. But why haven't you passed this motion in parliament? Why have you not been knocking at the door to say, guys, where's the hospital? Or how can we work together and collaborate as parties? Because I think also the mistake we've made in the past is that we've seen each other as enemies. Just because Armando is SWAPO, Anna Ye, and this is just example, Anna Ye is with a PDM, doesn't mean that they shouldn't now sit at the same table and also plan for the future. The politics are aside, the voters have spoken. Armando is the office of the president. You are in parliament. Collaborate and see how we can go forward and not look at each other as enemies. Because now what happens is the official opposition party just calls out the ruling party. It's like they are just there. You guys are not doing this. You guys are not doing this. But you don't also look internally to say, as an opposition party, what am I doing for my voters that have voted for me at the end of the day? What part am I playing? So it really speaks to the tone we've said that parties have become comfortable. I'm going to the elections. I'll be official opposition. That one will be ruling party.
It's fine.
Yes,
That's the game.
Yes. Before Anna comes in, I would just like to really put in emphasis on what Rivaldo was saying right now, because the thing is that Namibia has become so vulnerable, or how should I say, addicted to the norm of politics, where when an idea comes from opposition, ruling party needs to shut it. When an idea is coming from the ruling party, opposition needs to criticize it. But while you see that if opposition can take the idea that the ruling party has brought, for instance, and scrutinize it and bring it back to the ruling party, and then this can be implemented, politicians are looking at it with the tummy. But the consequences of shutting such an idea that is very lucrative and has bigger benefits for the constituents on the grassroots, those consequences come back to these people. But politicians just think about protecting their belly and their tummy, while they know this idea that came from opposition can actually, once implemented after the scrutiny it goes through, can benefit everyone in the country. So I think it also has to do with our politicians really just becoming slaves to the norms of politics.
It's actually very true. You want to say something?
Armando actually introduced what I was just going to say, because I was going to say that members of parliament should remember that we are all fighting the same battle. We all live in one country, and we are all fighting the same battles, in the sense that we all want a new hospital. We want our hospital to be developed, and we want our infrastructures to be developed. We are all fighting the housing crisis. We are all fighting to better our economy. So this is just like Armando said, how do I put it? When one party decides to what do I say? How do I say it? Sorry. When one party decides to bring out a point, and then it's up to all the other parties to now sit and say that, okay, how can we make this point better, or how can we better develop this point that was brought forward? So at the end of the day, it's one battle that we're fighting.
Exactly, and we are living in the same communities.
Exactly.
That's the thing, fighting the same problem.
And politicians need to understand that when elections happen for the presidency, the country becomes one constituency. And when the votes only get divided where we are voting for our members of parliament and so on, because the president, everybody has their own president that they want to vote for. But for instance, with me, I can go into the polling station and decide that I want to split my votes. And I want to give the presidency to party A. And I want to give party B the National Assembly. That is because I want to create an environment where check and balance really happens, where accountability is really put to task. But those are things that politicians really do not understand. They do not understand that votes sometimes are also split by the electorate.
Exactly. That's very true. I'm actually going to come back to that point of actually just for you to explain for us the process of voting, of how one can actually kind of split the votes and all that. But then I want to kind of like go back again to, I think, our first question. Like, I want you guys to just kind of tackle to like what is the power, what power do we have as young people if we come out in numbers to actually go and vote? What benefits, like what change can we bring?
I would really like to add, to share my 2 cents on that, and I'd really like to use a practical example of that. You see, when the incident happened with the late Sharon Vassafal, when her incident happened, the young people really came out in numbers. Young people started demanding answers. Young people started questioning the constitution. And you saw the state that Windhoek, for instance, was in. There was so much chaos. Some young people went to were arrested, and there was a lot was happening within that short period of time, to an extent that the sitting president of the Republic of Namibia, then the late president, had summoned those young people to State House to try and sit down with these young people and see how best we can work around this. So there is just a practical example of the power that we have as young people. We have seen how many corruption cases have been exposed in the country. It is no secret that corruption is also happening in Namibia. It is no secret that things that are unethical are happening in Namibia. But as young people, the moment, I don't know. Do we need triggers like the Shut It All campaign in order for us to see the power that we possess? That a sitting president can also request to sit down with young people and see how best we can amicably solve something that arises as young people. So I feel, I don't know, Sunday. I do not also have the answer to this. I don't know what is the drive, what we still need to say to make young people understand that the power that we possess as young people.
So just to follow up on what you say, to like, okay, now you say young people, obviously the power that we have, but then I can, as a young person in Katutra, I can say that I still, even if I don't vote, I still have the power to actually question the politicians. I can still question them, or I can still, do this, like,
I think Sunday, whether you vote party A into power or not, and let's bring it down to grassroots level. Let's say your constituency councillor, you probably did not. He or she was not your most favorable candidate through the elections, but then it is so that the other electorates trusted the individual into power, but you also still form a part of the specific society in which you reside. So by virtue of that, you still possess the power to put the regional councillor or the local authority councillor to task, to question, and to demand accountability from the said individual, because your interest is still within the jurisdiction that person is serving.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And we, the young people, actually have to understand how much power we have here in Namibia, because we make up 70% of the
population.
Of the population, and out of that 70%, how much percent of these people are eligible voters? Those are things that we should look at, and we should know that we should understand the power that we possess as young people in Namibia, and we should not take that for granted. If it means that us as young people, we can't forever and forever keep on complaining about change. No, we don't see change. And as he called it, we are just, what?
Keyboard activist.
Yeah, keyboard activists. So I'll be there posting on my status, but then I don't have the right context. And I'll post on my status and Rivaldo will see it, and Rivaldo keeps it to himself.
Exactly.
So it's up to us young people. We shouldn't just be keyboard activists. We should take it to ground and be like, no, Mr. Counselor, Madam Counselor, you're not doing what we voted you for. You told us that you'll do A, B, C, but you're not doing that. So we should hold these people accountable because they are put in office to serve us, the citizens of Namibia.
That's very true.
Well, I think as young people, we have become relaxed over the years. I think even during the apartheid years, who were the people that fought for our independence? This was the late president, the founding father, and the second president, and all these people that did fight for our independence. At that stage, they were still very young people. I remember, if I remember correctly, the president left the country or he became a teacher when he was about 17, 18. By his 20s, he had already left the country to go fight. This was relatively young. Imagine at 20 years of age, and the world that back then was still a little less developed. You are leaving your country to go fight. You guys are mobilizing each other as young people to say, guys, this government, we are going to overthrow it. This government is not for us. And we've seen even after elections, we've seen that during its very, very active years or during its early years, Nanso, how powerful Nanso was. Government would wait for Nanso Congress to listen to what Nanso is saying, because they knew if they don't listen to Nanso, the students will come into their offices, the students will knock. We've seen how radical the organization was. During meetings with ministers, they decide, no, minister, what you are saying is wrong.
Does not speak to us.
Throw the books, throw the tables aside. And the ministers, even there, they respected the young people to say, hey, these young people, they are coming up and they are really strong in their approach. They are united and they are moving forward with a common agenda. And over the years, we've seen that young people have lost that unity in a sense. Because for Rivaldo, as long as Rivaldo has a job, I have a job, Armando doesn't have a job. Armando's unemployment is his concern as his own. Me, because I have a job, all that. So we've also lost we've lost that unity among our young people, and something we really need to regain. Speaking to the statistics now, we see that young people make up 70% of the population. We can literally drive the narrative on our own. If we decide, guys, all of us, we are voting for that party, and party will win.
We are coming up with our own candidate.
We are coming up with our own candidate. We are coming up with our own political party. We will win. The other 30%, maybe, and it's 30%, out of that 30%, only 15 or 20% will vote. And they don't stand a chance against us. So I think really, as young people, we should unite. We should look and harness that power. Because I mean, we've seen it with our current leaders. When they were young people, they were united and they won the fight. And like we always say on social media, they won the fight to freedom, the fight to independence. Ours is really to win the economic fight. To fight for issues such as getting jobs and most importantly, getting our land back.
Living comfortably as well.
Living comfortably as well. Living dignified lives as well as young people. And not just because Rivaldo got a job, he has a business, he forgets about all the other young people.
Yes, really, Sunday, I like what Rivaldo said. And, you know, Sunday, the reality is that the situation right now and the problems that we as young people are confronted with, these are problems that we are confronted with, and the solutions lie in our hands. We just need to stand up. The state of the economy affects young people. Unemployment affects young people. Every aspect of society, we are at the receiving end of the heat of this, but yet we are not standing up to take action against this. And the other thing that Rivaldo really pointed out to is that the reality is, Sunday, in as far as youth development is concerned, someone can differ with me, but the truth is, I have worked with the young people of this country. I've experienced young people in this country, and I know that the zeal and the drive, if not even the 100%, even the 40% is within the young people in our country. What do we lack? we lack unity, Rivaldo. We lack the harmony amongst us. We feel that Rivaldo, once he has been appointed as a ceremonial member of parliament, he feels reluctant because of the salary that he's getting.
Yeah.
He does not care because now he's getting a Mercedes-Benz that will be driving. He does not care. He does not even care that he's ceremonial, that he does not have a voice in parliament. He does not care about that because now he has gotten a salary. What does that do to Armando that then looked up to Rivaldo?
Yeah.
It evokes a sense of anger in me. What does anger cause? It causes me to create a fraction against Rivaldo. And what does that do? We are not harmonized. Youth, this side, youth, that side, youth, that side. Like the late Mandela Kabere used to say, young people are all over the place. We need to find a common purpose to drive our agenda. Then we will become strong. So all these attributes, we need to work on it so we can become harmonized and united.
And I think just to end off to Armando's point, I think it's there's a political philosopher that usually says each generation has its own generational mission, and it's up to their generation to take forward their generational mission. We've seen with the generation of our current leaders how they were able to drive that generational mission of gaining independence. However, with us, we need to fight for economic independence now, and that's one thing that we are not uniting to fight against.
Yeah.
So that's really the bottom line of the issue right here.
That's very true. And I think as well, like as young people now, if we take up now political offices, we should not forget like other young people. We should not forget each other and become as well inaccessible to others. Exactly.
I think really to the point of inaccessibility, that's a great point. Because I know young people in parliament right now. We watch each other's statuses. We comment on each other's things. We're like, hey, honorable, do this. And these are people from different political parties. Some of them don't even don't agree with my political views. But we, as young people, we share views. We are accessible. You can literally ask this guy's number. He'll give you a response. He will give you a response. And then you find those young people that then also get into the space and become inaccessible. They now join the crowd where they feel like I am the most important young person in the country. Not everyone must have contact with me. You must go through a PA. You must go through a secretary. And that is very wrong as a young person because you lose that relation with other young people on the ground. Because I don't want someone representing me to be someone that's far-fetched, that's up there and that doesn't even relate to my concerns.
Exactly.
Come down to my level. Let's watch each other's WhatsApp. I'm not saying now you have the whole Namibia's number in your phone, but just be accessible to the everyday Namibian that really puts in an effort to come to you. Even just coming to your office, meeting at parliament, meeting at a coffee shop. Honorable, can you please make time? Or even just inviting a minister or member of parliament to come speak to a group of young people. The young people should have that access to you because at the end of the day, you are there to represent all of us and not become this celebrity.
Exactly. That's very true. Okay, now they actually do you think that the political system that we have currently in the country adequately represent the interest and concerns of young people? Currently?
Sure, that's a difficult question because the views I share on the current system that we have in the country is not a popular one per se. And this will be criticized by a lot of people, but if you critically study it and you see that democracy has really not been in favor of the African continent. This is a system that we inherited from the West, from our colonizers, and we are just going with it. But with most African countries, you don't even see change happening. And I'd allude to one of the countries where dictatorship is not a form of, where democracy is not a form of government. Again, very controversial. But you look at countries like Rwanda, we've had a president that has served for about 10, 15, 20 years almost. And how is this country flourishing? This country is extremely well. It's one of the best countries on Africa, one of the safest countries on Africa.
Exactly.
And really development is flourishing in that country. Whereas you look at countries where democracy is really also the main goal of the day, and you see that development is challenged in these countries. Even look at recently with Burkina Faso, what has been happening with Burkina Faso with the coup d'etat that happened. You'd see that they now have a young leader. This is a young leader that really said that, listen, all these other foreign entities that are in my country are going out. We are going to take ownership of our diamonds. We are going to take ownership of our gold, and we're going to make sure that it benefits all the people right now. So it's a form of government that really speaks to all the people right now. But in a Namibian context also, I do think that the system is also a little befitting to us because you'd find that we do have certain sectors of the government that cater to young people. You'd find that there's institutions like the National Youth Council. You'd find that there's a ministry dedicated to youth, sports and national services. And you'd find that there's various other student organizations that then speak to the common agenda of young people. But you also look at the financing of this institutions, and then you'd realize that there's a difference in where the financing goes. So you know that in order for something to really do good, it needs money. Anything that has to do well needs money. But then you look at the amount allocated to youth sectors in government, which really isn't also enough.
And these youth institutions as well, do they really serve the young people? Are they really like accessible as well to the general young person, Namibian? Go ahead.
Yeah, that deserves a blank answer. It is debatable because you who has access to those officers would say we are sharp. But I do not have access to that office, so I cannot comment on that. So I feel it is unique to each individual. So that is something that is very much debatable. But again, just to also add my 2 cents on the question that you had posed earlier on Sunday, I am one that is always criticized for saying that I'm not entirely a fan of democracy because democracy cripples progress. Let me tell you why I say that.
Tell us.
The constant consultation, the constant opposition to something that we can quickly do, the constant back and forth, the constant bureaucracy. It's something you are seeing that these people need sanitation. We need to go through a bureaucracy, and then National Assembly feels that this is financially not a action that can be taken. But again, Party A feels that this is something that that is infringing on someone's constitutional right of dignity. But because it is a democracy, we need to go through this democracy, and democracy needs to then dictate the end outcome of that petition that we have put to the table. While, for instance, where a country that has a dictator, the dictator says we do it as such, and it is done as such. There are also benefits to a democracy and there are disadvantages to a democracy. But I am speaking now to the disadvantages of the democracy, which then cripples progress. But coming back to your question, in the Namibian context, does it really speak to us as young people? I think we as young people have allowed our political principle to use us as ceremonial puppets, to make it seem like policies speak to our interest, while in actual fact it really does not speak to our interest. The Fisheries Act, for instance, makes provision for a certain quota to go to young people. But how do we know that this really is happening? Where is the transparency? Where is the accountability report to show us this? Where is it?
Armando, the Fishing Act makes provision for young people. So I think it really also begs the question of who are these young people? Because I don't even... This information I'm finding out now, and I also want a fishing quota. So we also need the transparency to say, okay, listen, this year we gave the fishing quota to Rivaldo and Armando. Next year we are taking it away from them. And because I really didn't know that. I also didn't know.
That's what it feels like. I also didn't know.
So you understand now, Sunday, to who does it speak to? To who does it speak to? Does it speak to the young member of parliament? Does it speak to the elites who are friends to the young member of parliament? Who does it really speak to? Who do these policies appeal to? But one thing we can really, really, really commend the government of the day on is the consultation and the engagement with the young people. I think the government of the day has really realized, though we as young people have not yet robustly taken up our stance, they have seen that the strength that we have in us. Therefore, anything in nation building mainstream, we as young people are consulted. Look at green hydrogen, for instance. Rivaldo can put an emphasis on that. Green hydrogen also is a certain area which speaks to the interest of young people. That is because young people were consulted prior to the policy, and also will be consulted when the act, because we are informed that there will be an act going to parliament that will regulate the green hydrogen and how it will happen. So young people will also have a say in this. So I feel consultation, the government of the day has done the state a justice by consulting with young people, always having young people in the consultation rooms. But to what extent do our contributions really speak to the implementation or the drafting of the policies? Questionable.
That's very true.
Quick question for Armando.
Yeah.
Who are these young people that are consulted?
Young people. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You know, young people are all over the place, I said earlier on, but there are organizations within the country, and from this, it is very unfortunate that from these organizations, the certain elites, I must say, that's very blunt, say the certain elites in these organizations are then called the representatives of the young people. I was speaking to one young person last week, and the young person said, but how can you leave the country and say, I'm going to represent the young people of the Republic of Namibia? Who delegated? Did you ask all the young people whether you need to go and leave the
And
country?
do they even
and
know?
represent the young people of Namibia? So it is really debatable who these young people are, but there is a system. It is unfortunate the government cannot consult every young person within, but there are systems like the town hall meetings, which our president had started to, the late president had started doing. These are platforms where young people can air their views, because it is through these town hall meetings that the green hydrogen ideas and this perspective of young people have been incorporated into the report on green hydrogen. The meetings that His Excellency constantly had with young people at State House, the young people like the comrade Mr. Rivaldo here, who were very much accessible to the president, who access the president in State House easily. These are young people that represent the voice of.
So these are
These are young people. These are young people who really spoke to our interests. So I really think it has to do with your personal conviction as a young person. Once you have gone to that meeting, do you come back to those that are on the grassroots? Do you share the information with them? Do you get input from them? And then you send it again back to the hierarchy as it is. Because government cannot come to everybody, but government is using systems and organizations that are in place to represent the broader constituents.
That's
okay. And just to clarify on the whole elite part, it wasn't really an elite type of thing. What happened, or at least from my experience, what I can share is that at an early age already, I took into the whole leadership type of thing. Just I was very inquisitive in nature, like who is the president, what does the president do, what happens. So attended all these funny small meetings that didn't even make sense to a lot of people. You know, you attend a meeting in a school after school, people are like, you like things, you're just there. But it's really you gaining knowledge and gaining all that experience. So over the years, that experience built up, and it then opened doors that were quite bigger for me. Because it's through the small meetings that you get to open the big doors at the end of the day. So, and in that nature, and I get where Armando's coming from, that who sent you to go represent young people, and you're only one person, how can you represent the interest of all young people? So in my personal capacity, what I would do is I'd hold consultation with learners at school. I'd ask the learners, okay, what do you think is needed here? What do you think is needed there? What do you think is needed there? What should we do? And this has also been evident in my work within the Children's Parliament, because I remember tabling the motion that said, let's increase the disability grant for children under the age of 18. I am not disabled. But me bring that motion forward shows that really I spoke to the kids with disability, and I asked them, how much are you guys receiving? They told me 250. I said, 250 is not fair. You cannot be receiving $250 Namibian. So let's tell government to increase this monetary aspect of the funds. So at least from my side, it's just me washing my hands now and saying that, guys, please.
Exactly, but I think as well just depend, because government, like politicians or government people in government, can't consult everyone. But it's a duty for every, like if you attend this meeting, you are invited to go and attend this meeting. Like, okay, the information that you gain from there, how are you going to share it with your community? How are you going to actually utilize that to actually also be, to share this information that you receive as well, and how are you going to put it into action? Not just you are given the privilege to actually attend this meeting, but then you just come back home and then you sit and you do nothing about the information that you actually receive. So Yeah, you can just.
I'm glad they actually clarified that and actually emphasized on that. Because I was going to say that we young people shouldn't be ignorant.
Yeah.
We should actually take it up upon ourselves that, no, I hear that there's a town hall happening in Katutura.
Yeah.
Let me not just sit at home and actually just get I'll be like laid back and all that and wait for Rivaldo to post on his status that this were the outcomes of the town hall meeting. It's up to me as a young person to go there myself, listen, and also give my point and put it forward that no, this personally, let's say, let me give an example of Rivaldo lives in, let's say, Academia. Rivaldo's house has water and electricity, and Rivaldo lives in a brick house.
Yeah.
And then I live in, let's say, Okuriangava, and I live in a shack, and I do not have access to clean water. I have to use the bushes as my bathroom, for example. So then, me as a young person, I'll be there laid back. I'll be like, no, I don't see change and all that. But then Rivaldo coming from Academia, he already has the good life.
Yeah.
And he's the one attending the town hall meeting. And then Rivaldo, and I expect Rivaldo to be speaking on my behalf because I'm that person.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, Rivaldo is already in the field.
Yeah.
So Rivaldo should be the one talking on my behalf. I should take it up, me as a young person, to be like, no, this is what I want as a young person, and I should go there and hold these people accountable and demand for these people and speak from a first-hand information. I speak from first-hand. I should give them first-hand information. Because Rivaldo does not feel it. He sees it, yes, but he doesn't understand what goes on.
Sometimes I don't even feel like, you'd be so what you call it, so surprised by how many people are out of tune with what actually happens to the rest of the community. And I always use this example. If I live in Kleiner Cooper, I go to Groove Mall, I attend St. George's, I come back home, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm just seeing my friends' things. I will never even think that there's a shack in Namibia.
Yeah.
For holiday, I go to swap, so sometimes it's really that, and these are the people that also that attend those meetings now. That attend those meetings, and for them their biggest problem is maybe just salary increments. We're not receiving them our greatest share of salary. But you that's living in Okuriangava now, that isn't experiencing water, doesn't have electricity, you're not attending those meetings. So at the end of the day, who's going to fight your fight for you?
Exactly.
Because we live, and as an honest truth, you'd say that, okay, but as a young leader you must also be well versed, but we live different realities in this country. What affects you might not necessarily affect me, but I'll speak about what affects me more. I'll put it as a priority that government do this. All of us must have iPhones at the end of the day. Meanwhile, someone doesn't have water and electricity.
Exactly.
So
even this Tamagotchi,
exactly. And it's up to us all to also take our fights to government to say that no, listen, Rivaldo, or at least as a collective, sit down. Armando, what are your challenges? Anna, what are your challenges? Rivaldo, what are your challenges? Okay, Anna, go represent all of them for us, because not all of us can go to State House.
Exactly.
That's how, and that speaks to the core of this discussion, that as young people we need to unite and we need to identify our generational fight and take it forward as one.
Exactly. And I also think that as young people as well, we should also know where are we fighting our fights. Because sometimes we're just on social media, but these politicians are not on social media, or we are just there complaining within ourselves, but we are not actually using the right channels to actually fight those fights as well. So now as young people, okay, now I'm here, I'm inspired by this discussion and all that. So how do I start? And I really want to be well informed. I want to be involved in this engagement. Like, where do I start for me to be involved in this engagement, to be involved in politics and all that?
So the first thing is to educate yourself. You need to educate yourself to also be able to properly tell the people what your problem is. Yes, you need to educate yourself and tell people what the problem. And I always tell young people, because a lot of young people ask me, oh, Rivaldo, but how did you come to State House and what? And I tell them, you have to start small, unfortunately. You have to attend these small meetings that they are very important, but in the public eye aren't that important. But you have to start with those small meetings and then gradually grow into that meeting. Because what young people also in the country feels is like, when I start, I must start and go meet the president already. I must go tell the president my problem. Start with your councillor. Tell your councillor the problem. The councillor will then refer you to the governor. Oh, there's a meeting coming up with the governor. Attend this meeting. The governor then says, okay, Parliament, the Committee of Parliament is having this meeting. Go. And I always say that with young people, you must be inquisitive. We are young. We have time. We have energy. Your councillor is like your employee as a young person. Go knock. Tate, there's no water in the community. What are you doing? What are we doing as a collective? How are we going to take this fight to Parliament? So as a young person, really just for you to take the initiative and go. And there are so many avenues where young people can do this. it's very, very easy for you as a young person. And I say, in this way, it comes to the aspect of also educating yourself. You educate yourself, you have the knowledge, and you can articulate your problems well. You take a paper, or you take a pen, or you take your laptop, you take your phone even if you don't have a laptop, and you type an article, an opinion piece for the newspaper.
Yeah.
The Namibian News, which is a national newspaper, the New Era, a national newspaper again. You type and you tell them what is happening in your community, and you send it and they publish it. What then happens? You as a young person already, you are talking to the entire nation through one article. Your newspaper is being, your article is being read in Zambezi, it's being read in the South.
People
it's being
recognize
read
you for that.
in Parliament, it's being read. And consequently, what then happens is you're invited to meetings because we see, oh, this young person is doing great in the community. Also, we can't expect policymakers, members of parliament, and members of the executive to just say, I'm going to call Rivaldo somewhere in the community. If they don't even know that you are there.
Exactly.
If I see Armando's doing good, Armando speaking on the issue, I say, oh, Armando's a representative of the young people. He's communicating the message of the young people. Armando, come here. Let's draft this policy together.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to add on what Valdo has said, people actually started small. Like personally, my leadership journey already started like in grade 7 when I was first elected as head girl, and I worked all the way. In grade 8, I already served as the chairperson of Nanto on a school level, and all the way to a regional level, which later on like only caught up in grade 11. Yeah, grade 11, I served as the vice chair. So you should know, or as young people, we should know that you have to start on ground level.
Yeah.
For example, like a school learner, if you want to get involved in all these things, you have to start on a school level for your school to be able to identify you and to go represent your school. Or in Wolfish Bay, we have something called the Junior City Council, whereby you are the, let's say, the junior, we have a junior mayor, we have a junior CEO, we have all these positions like a junior council that represents the young people of Wolfish Bay. So these people started on a school level whereby their school identified them. So you already have to be vocal. You already have to understand what do you want to advocate for. So once you have identified that and you start on a school level, eventually you'll go up all the way. You also have to, as Rivaldo said, educate yourself. You have to be very literate. You just don't. What happens when you give a young person the platform to go represent the young people? What happens when you give a young person a platform to actually, let's say you have a meeting with a minister and you just get someone, a young person that just woke up and they're like, no, we need people to go represent us at the minister of, let's say, youth.
Yeah.
And you just go there and you don't know what to say. You don't know what message you want to deliver. And at the end of the day, you're going to fail these young people that you went to represent because you went there not knowing anything and you already went there like, for the sake of going there. So as young people, we need to we need to educate ourselves and know what do we actually want to advocate for. And we have to start here.
And just to add on to Anna's point, with most young people, unfortunately, you have to start at grassroots level. You have to start small. Not everyone will be given that amazing opportunity to just automatically go to the very top. So with most young people, start small, attend those and those community meetings are so important. That's where the laws come from. That's where the policies come from. The policies at the top, that's where people review. It's not where it's made. It's mostly where the review process goes on and amendments are being made to all these laws and policies. So start small and influence from the bottom up. It's possible.
That's very true.
And with this grassroots level thing is, let's say, like, for example, the town hall meetings, you'll find your councillors, you find your mayors, and hopefully you'll also find your governors there. And these are people that you can probably have a one-on-one session with if time permits it at this town hall meeting. So as young people, we shouldn't be missing out on these small meetings thinking it's small. It all starts there. And also at this time, it's where you can network with people. If you find Rivaldo, they will be like, oh, I saw you serve in the Children's Parliament.
Yeah.
How did you get there? And Rivaldo might want to take you along the journey to actually also pave the way for you. So this is where we young people actually have to start using these platforms to also network and also meet our leaders.
That's very true.
I think they have exhausted. Well, quite exhausted the point, but I would just like to just add one cent to it, and I really like to say that it is very true that one really needs to start at the ground. There's a saying that goes, "There's no elevator to success. We all take the stairs," or something as such. So it is baby steps to gradually gradually getting there. But again, once you have gotten there, my petition to young people who have gotten there is that once you get there, do not limit yourself. Do not feel like only when it is a youth discussion I need to be involved. When you see that this discussion is around housing affordability in Windhoek, for instance, under the city council, you will one day buy a house. You'll one day buy a car. So all these things will then have an effect on you in the later day. So you need to participate already today. I remember once there was a national seminar on housing, and then the deputy minister of finance saw me there, and then she said, "But then what are you doing here?" And I'm like, "But Comrade Deputy Minister, you cannot ask me such a question.
Yeah.
This is something that I will buy a house 10 years down the lane, so I need to know what you guys are discussing here, so I can also help you scrutinize and tell you that it is impossible, because look at the job demand, and for instance, look at such things like you need to not limit yourself and do not allow people to dictate to you which environments are suitable for you, like our ceremonial politicians."
That. Okay, do you want to say something? Okay. Okay, so how can now young people, okay, I have voted now, it's now done. So how can I still remain engaged post-election?
So after you're done voting, these people then assume office. And what normally happens is it's time for us to hold them accountable now. So for instance, I tell the young people, attend the sessions of parliament. Those are things that are open to everyone.
Yeah.
No one is said you can't go to parliament. Attend those sessions of parliament. Listen to what the people that you voted for are saying in parliament. And there's always avenues where you can talk to them, either through the PA, either through a newspaper article, either through a TV interview, either through a representative.
Yeah.
But you can always have access to these members of parliament, and you can always talk to them. And it's very important after voting to also hold them accountable. Because I'd always say, look at some of our, I'm sure you guys know members of parliament, and I know members of parliament that were voted into parliament the last election was
15, 2019.
Some of these members were elected into parliament in 2019, and I've never heard them say anything. And I've watched parliament, not every day, but I do watch parliament. And some of these members have never said anything, but then again, they'll be put on the list to go back to parliament.
Exactly.
So we as young people should hold accountable, but you, what have you said, Rivaldo, what were you saying in parliament all those 5 years? You're just sitting there collecting a salary while I voted for you. I'll not vote for you anymore. And then consequently, that's how we hold them accountable post the voting stage. It doesn't end at voting. It goes beyond voting. Because the voting is just a starting point. The work starts after you guys have done voting.
Exactly. And just to add on that, I think it was the 2 days back, I heard that last year, I think we only had about 7 manifestos, but we have more than 7 political parties that are in parliament. And that's, I'm like, okay.
That's really difficult to comment or to say anything. Because some of these political parties also, you just hear of them here and there. What? What? It's not so difficult. But they do have a community that they speak to. Maybe it might not just be us. So it's quite difficult to make a commentary on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think just to add on, and even during this election really, we spoke of 70% of young people being eligible, 70% of the population being young people that might be eligible to vote. I don't just want politicians to see young people as voting cows, to say come vote for us, and let's go to parliament. I want to see young people also on that list of people that are going to parliament. We don't just want young people to be nominated into parliament as non-voting members. We want to see the young people on the list that are going to parliament to say, okay, I see Rivaldo's name there, I see Armando's name there, I'm going to vote for that party. Because the biggest issue we are facing now is that young people will be seen as voting cows only, which we should totally reject as young people. So we should say that the 70% must also go into political spaces and governmental spaces.
That's very true. Anybody wants to
emphasize not just any young people, but capable young people.
Exactly. I think we've been missing a very important point. And it's something we've been speaking about it. Young people must be the young people, but it's not enough to be young.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not enough. You must be competent, you must have the capacity, you must be well versed to also go into parliament and go into these spaces and speak for us. Because we've seen with some of these young people.
Yeah.
We've said give the young people the opportunity, and
They are there.
they are there, but they become celebrities.
Yeah.
They are focusing on every other thing except talking about our issues.
That's
So really, I think Anna made a great point that it's not enough to be young.
yeah.
Young, competent, capacitated, and will send you to parliament.
That's very true.
And I think even what we can learn, South Africa is having their elections quite well before us. I think they'll have their elections in May. And then there's this podcast I watch, Podcast and Chill.
Yeah.
So what they decided is, listen, we have 1 million people that are watching this podcast. We'll send one young person to parliament. All of you that are watching this podcast will vote for it. Why can't Namibians also do that and say, okay, guys,
Did
we
we
see this
succeed
young-
though?
they're in the process of going through all the process, but they started the movement.
Yeah.
They've gained the number of signatures they need to send this young person to parliament, and they are now waiting to see if he'll approve. But if it's approved, it'll be on the voting.
Yeah.
And hopefully,
Yeah.
see, that's young people going behind each other and saying, listen, we have an agenda and we are pushing this agenda and taking the power, like as a collective, we are going and are saying, we are taking example. Let's take Rivaldo to parliament. Let's take Rivaldo to parliament.
But we really do possess the power to make such decisions and to carry them out. But again, just really to add on to accountability Sunday, there's so much that we can do as taxpayers, as the electorate, as young people. It does not make sense to me that we have so many young people that are economists, for example, in Namibia. They are so good in economics and the finance sector, but you see that a financial statement is coming to parliament 3 years later. Who was to take the agency or take the parastatal to task to ensure that these things come earlier on?
Yeah.
And as young people, we are watching parliament and we are hearing the Minister of Finance saying, audit report from the Auditor General, 2024, 2025, like, and we are in 2027. I know that how the report need to come to parliament, but at least this what happened in the bureaucracy that these statements are coming so late. I know it would take long for the Auditor General to compile all these things, to take them to Parliament, but the time frame really does not make sense. But we have so many young people that are well educated and outside there. We need to try and look where we can take these people to task and try and interrogate where the cancer is in the bureaucracy that is crippling progress in the society. You understand? And as young people, these are things that we need to look at post-elections. We need to go and sit down with our leaders and say, in your manifesto, you articulated this. You are in your last year, but you have not delivered upon this. To take them to task and directly to face. That's the only way we can make progress in a country like Namibia, where we are, where harmony is the basis of our unity in Namibia. So that is my 2 cents on that.
Okay, great to hear that. And can we proceed?
Yes, we can proceed.
Okay, so now, I want now to ask this question. Like, okay, if you guys, you all have your own political parties, right, that you're going to vote for. But then, like, what if you were like a normal young person in Katutura or in Havana, who knows really, who is not very well informed about like these political parties on the level that you guys are actually informed, will you still vote for that political party actually? Or what political party will you vote for?
I think, to be very honest, in this much I owe my constituents. So to be very honest, if I was not educated about politics in the dynamics within politics, I would not have gone to vote for the party that I am going to vote for. But I am advantaged that I have civic education and that I know what it means to be a politician, that I know what politics is, that you can be a strong leader. But if your team is not strong and if your team comes in with their own agenda, your administration will be weak. And you might have a strong political team, but if your bureaucracy has a cancer within it, there will be no progress. So if I was not educated to that extent, I would also just have played what I call nama politics, which is the word of mouth and criticizing and calling out and all this, because I am not educated. I have not understood what is happening behind the scenes. Because Sunday, you need to understand, you can be a great leader, you can be strong, and you can be whatever, but you as a president, you are a ceremonial president because you are just on top. Where does implementation happen? Implementation happens in the bureaucracy, the machinery that administers the administration of the state. So that is where the problem would lie to me. It is not with the politicians, because politicians will always be politicians, whether we get party A in power, whether we get party B in power. What we as young people need to tackle is the bureaucracy. If there's a problem in the bureaucracy, the administration will be failed.
That makes a lot of sense.
I think this is the part where I say no comment.
Okay. Okay. And Anna?
It's quite a tough question. As Armando was speaking, I was busy thinking. And personally, if I wasn't well educated as I am right now about politics and all, I'll just choose not to vote.
No.
Good parent you.
It's
Just on the day people are voting, I'll take it like no public holiday and I'll just be in bed.
in bed doing nothing there and not going to stand in the sun. Exactly. But then now, okay, for now, obviously having our upcoming election that's coming up in November and all that, what do you think our, people in government, people that are in power, what can they do to actually motivate more young people to actually end up in these polling stations, you know?
I think we shouldn't, with the upcoming elections, we've been talking about government, but where's the private sector? Why can't the government and private sector work together to ensure that young people have a conducive environment to stand in and wait while they go into the voting stations? Why can Namib Dairies not decide, okay, we are going to sponsor chairs at least for you guys to sit while you are waiting? Some other company decides, listen, we are going to give you guys umbrellas to to stand in the sun, while you are waiting to vote. And then some other, we need to motivate young people to also come to the party and to come play their part. A company can decide, okay, MTC, if we find a random 2 people at the polling station, we'll give them super away for the whole year. If my friends, and I know my friends, they like things. If they hear such things, all of us are going to go vote that thing. So we must really find incentives to just motivate our young people to go vote. Because we cannot keep on saying, we must just educate. And the thing is, we'll also talk about the civic education when it's election year. Trust me, next year this topic, we will not talk about civic education anymore. So we should use different measures. I'm not saying now we must only motivate young people with materialistic things, but we must find different ways to appeal to the young people to all
give
go
them
to the voting
reasons.
station. Yes, to go and vote.
Exactly.
Okay. I really love Rivaldo's way of thinking, because had you asked me that question earlier on, I would have said, I do not think there's anything that we can do to make young people go and vote, because I'm speaking from my perspective. Because when I got to learn about voting, I educated myself and I saw how imperative it is to go and vote. So in my logical sense, I'm just like, okay, to the other young person too, logic must please dictate. Why do I need to? You understand? But these are strategies and avenues that can be explored in order to attract young people to go and vote. If not the poverty at home, if not the state of the economy, if not the state of the education system, if not the state of the health system, what still can push you to go and vote?
Exactly.
What still needs to happen to push young people to go to the polls? Then probably we need to get other avenues, youth-centered avenues to get them to vote, because that also does not, it really sets a bad image for our country in terms of national standards, that our young people are not active in a very serious matter like voting. It really is questionable.
That's very true.
And I think for young people, it should come from like Armando mentioned, we should understand the struggle that we are currently facing. We should understand the poverty
not necessarily all the youth that all the youth are currently facing, but we should understand the poverty that we young people are actually facing. We should understand why it is important for us young people to vote.
Yeah.
Yes, government or private sector can only do things to a certain extent. But even though I can probably offer, no, we will sponsor how many chairs at this polling station. But because there's no umbrella, Rivaldo will still choose not to vote.
I don't like the sun.
Just makes sense.
So I will still decide that no, I'm not going to vote because, yeah, I'll be seated, but I'll be seated for long hours. And I'll still be seated in the sun. So it should come from within, because politicians, government, and private sector can only do all these things to a certain extent. But if it doesn't come from within, and if we do not understand as young people why it is important for us to vote, then what's the use? We decide not to vote.
That's very true.
And I think as young people also, when we don't vote, it's in the favor of the politicians. Because Rivaldo will go again, and Rivaldo will go vote for SWAPO again. The other youth will come and go vote for PDM again. SWAPO will remain the ruling party, PDM will remain opposition party, and it's everyday's thing.
Yeah.
Zero sin. So the politicians also, to them, they're like, these young people, they won't vote for us, but it's not even a big problem.
Yeah. Same people will vote
People will come vote for us, will remain in power, us will keep on moving while they will just stay there.
That's very true.
And I always say that the young people that are loyal to their parties, and we should see who are these young people that are always loyal to their parties. Those people will forever stand up and go vote for their political parties because they are loyal to their political parties. But then you find Anna that's not educated on politics and they just votes for the sake of voting.
Yeah.
Or next part, and this year I'm at this party, next year I'm at this party. At the end of the day, I'm voting for the sake of just casting a vote, and I do not understand how important it is. And I do not necessarily that I'm not loyal to my party, but if Rivaldo remains a loyal party member and is forever voting for their political party, Rivaldo is always motivated to go stand up and vote. But me, that changes from one political party to the next because of the promises that they make. I decided, okay, I don't think this year I really have a favorable candidate. So it's okay, I can pass it.
And I think also the conversation for this year is a bit wrong. That young people should just go vote. I think young people should go vote wisely at the end of the day. Because I'm also going to say, and this might be a bit controversial, for me as a young person, if I'm not also voting, it's not a problem. What if none of the political parties speaks to my problem that I'm facing right now? So you can't come judge me and say, but you're not voting. No. The parties are not cool enough, like you said. Are not cool enough for me to go vote for them.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it's not just about going to go vote for the sake of voting. We must vote wisely, really, and see what we want to get from our votes. Me voting should be okay. I'm voting. It's kind of like an investment. I'm giving you taxi money to go to you now so you can get a degree and get a job and come back and support the family.
Yeah.
I'm voting for you to go into power so you can go implement policies and I can get a job. That's how voting should be. Not just my grandmother woke up today and said, guys, go vote for that party because it's our party.
No one is staying home.
Yeah, no one is staying.
No one is staying home.
Not in my house.
Not in my house. So we should do our research differently and go vote wisely at the end of the day and with a mission at the end of the day.
That's very true. That's very true. So thank you so much, guys, for actually taking your time to actually come here and to actually be able to actually share your experience and the knowledge that you actually have. So just some last words, what you want to say or the advice that you want to give to young people out there.
The conversation this year, and I see everyone's having this conversation that young people must be in politics, young people must go vote. But I'm not saying it's wrong to also have the older generation to be in politics.
Yeah.
And I've seen this with the what you call this endorsed president, which is of the SWAPO Party Youth League, which is Menetumbo Nandindai. People are like, oh, but she's old and whatnot. But even if you study, and I think this is really where studying also goes into play, if you educate yourself, look at the age that Joe Biden, the current president of America, is. Look at the age that Donald Trump is. Look at the age of Putin. Look at the age of all these leaders. So we need politics and we need a government system where there's integration of not just young people alone, but an integration of the young and the old together to make it work. We are now also not saying that, listen, let's kick all the old people out and let's just have a government of young people.
Yeah.
So we also need guidance. There's experience. With experience also comes some lessons that are key. So at the end of the day, let's really educate ourselves and let's not just say things that at the end of the day are popular to say, such as we can't have an old president.
Yeah.
Look, study global politics. Look, America and Russia are one of the biggest countries, superpowers in the world. Look at the ages of their president, but no, Rivaldo from Comasta wants to say, I'm not voting for an old person because what. But at the end of the day, when it makes you look sound like it's just very uneducated, like you've never done proper research. So as young people, like we said, it's not enough to be young.
Yeah.
Be young, be educated, be competent. Don't just be young and loud. And you know, there's a saying that the emptiest drums make most noise. So
Yeah.
let's also, as young people, let's educate ourselves and let's talk when it's necessary to really do so.
That's very true.
I'll personally just emphasize on the educating yourself on, be literate, read the necessary books, read the necessary documents when it comes to Namibia, specifically the policies that are being passed, specifically all the things. We should actually also sit down and revise that. No, this is the progress that we have had for the past how many years, ever since 2019 to all the way to 2024. This has been the progress that has been done by A, B, and C. And as young people, educate yourself, because it's important when you're educated about politics, or when you're educated, you know at least that, no, I'm making an informed decision, and I'm not just voting for the sake of voting, or I'm just not gonna go on my status and just post all these things that doesn't make sense to other people, but apparently makes sense to me. But then we young people, once we know that, no, we're now taking it to the ground, as everyone has been mentioning, that we young people should also be united. We should know that this is what we are fighting for, and then we should hold our hands
Together,
to ensure that yes, all of us are in the same vein and we're both fighting. We are all fighting the same battle.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very true.
Yes, I love what Ronaldo and Anna are both pointing out to, because we are so good at advocating for young people in mainstream. We are advocating for young people to take up the space. But the thing that we are not looking at is that, so Ronaldo said, you can be old and be incompetent. You can be young and easily corrupted, because you are young, you have not yet bought your car, you have not yet bought your plot, you have not yet gotten offshore accounts. So once we bring in a young person into leadership, all these things a young person is bringing in with, all these agendas a young person is coming in with, what does that then do to this young person?
Yes.
This young person is easily corrupted. So my petition point is, when the time comes for elections and political parties come out with their manifestos, I in particular will not look at the face of the politician. I will listen to their promises that they articulate in their manifesto, and to what extent those promises appeal to me, because that then will tell me whether that bureaucracy will easily be corrupted or that bureaucracy will be effective. Because to me, a young person can be the president. I don't have a problem. To me, an old person that is 90 years old can be the president, because to me, those are ceremonial positions. To as far as I perceive them, my interest lies in the bureaucracy, because it's the bureaucracy that will ensure that sanitation is covered, that healthcare is covered, that the old get their pensions. So the president can be whatever age. Mine will be to listen to the articulations and to interrogate them and to see whether they will easily be corrupted, or it will be effective. And lastly, I would appeal to young people, of course, to come out and to express what their concerns are, make their voices heard. And for the first time, let us move our politicians and show them that young people are ready to put you into power, but that will not easily happen. And once you are in power, we are ready to hold you to account. And that we can only do once we are united as young people.
That's very true. That's very true. Thank you so much for actually watching this episode up until this end. So you have heard it from the young people themselves. You being young is not enough. Be a young person who is able and capable and actually confident enough to actually be able to represent other people. And yeah, so if you are not yet part of this, the Henok TV, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and as well just turn on the notification button for you to be notified whenever we actually post another video such as this one. And as well, don't forget to hit to follow us on our social media channels, which is Instagram, TikTok as well. And also, if you are in need of advice, and if you are in need, I'm not sure if by young people, actually also you guys are accessible, yeah, right, to other young people.
Yeah, definitely. I receive 10 DMs almost every day. 10 people asking me the same question, and I'm always ready to answer. So just Instagram, Rivaldo. You can just search Rivaldo Kavanga. My profile will come out.
Yeah.
And additionally, you can even just Google. Just Google Rivaldo Kavanga.
Even on your Instagram, it's like Google Rivaldo Kavanga.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you saw that. Yeah, it's me making myself accessible to the young people.
Exactly.
Yes, I think we all are accessible.
Yeah.
We all are in the environment. If you come to university, you'll see us at university. But we also take it a step further. We go to different high schools. You'll see we are in the community.
Exactly.
I believe with us, we are very accessible.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So you heard it from the people themselves. So guys, from here, see you in the next episode, and thank you so much for watching.